Today's episode is an episode for founders, solopreneurs, soul-driven, purpose-driven founders. And as you know, I have worked in marketing for over 20 years, probably by now. And I have been in countless business coachings, business mentorings, some of them incredibly good. And I learned so much that has been extremely beneficial to starting my own business or optimizing processes, messaging, storytelling. But what I keep seeing over and over again is that so many founders and solopreneurs struggle with is content creation. And you could also say it's the content creation hamster wheel. And many of them, and I see this always in all the comments, people are responding when they're being asked what they really struggle with is creating content by themselves. And it's not just that people struggle with ideas or what to say or to be in front of the camera. Sometimes it's just really not their thing. So some people out there, believe it or not, dear business coaches who always tell us that we all have to become content creators, I lovingly disagree. I don't think we all have to become content creators. In my case, it's a little bit different because I actually realized I just had to get over the fear of creating content and being in front of the camera, speaking into a microphone. And I learned that through the podcast. And first, I started doing it in interviews and speaking with people, which is so much more natural than talking by yourself into a camera. I realized that I really enjoy creating content and speaking to people and sharing information and knowledge. And I realized, though, that this is not the case for everyone. Like, there are many founders, solopreneurs, coaches out there that really dislike creating content. And I feel it's wrong to kind of push them towards creating and becoming this person and being that content creator and getting over that hill, because it just works against your natural state of being. It works against your energy. And at the end of the day, it's not authentic. So the things that you don't enjoy, that you don't like, that you're not good at, why not outsource them? And I am a big believer in making sure that you align your work with your energy. And I speak to women about this all the time. And especially being a manifesting generator, I jump onto things constantly. And when my excitement disappears, I tend to move on to the next thing. And I feel your energy is really important when you build a business. And yes, there are always things that you're not going to enjoy, but content is such a big part of building a business. And I feel there are ways that you can solve this without having to push yourself to speak into a camera, which may feel very unnatural to you. And you can find a different way to do this. So for many, it's a real problem. You know, you need to grow your business. It's not a nice to have anymore, but between client calls and your product development and actually running your company and servicing your clients, sitting down to even write or create ideas feels like a big hill. So maybe you've even tried to outsource your content to a social media agency or a freelancer, and maybe that hasn't worked, or you find this option too price intensive. That's possible too. But what I see happening with so many founders and solopreneurs is you are sitting on a gold mine of wisdom and expertise, but it's locked up inside of your brilliant mind. And you can talk about your business for hours. Hello, because you love doing what you do. But translating that into written content or social content, video content is a whole different beast. So I understand. Like there are people that just really feel like they have to force yourself into a role because that part of content creation is just not for them. And then there's the other problem. And I've heard that in another coaching session recently where a coach was analyzing content that his mentee had done. And it turns out that when she was talking into the camera by herself, her energy changed so much and she was so different on camera speaking by herself into the camera that her whole natural way of being, her funny way to talk, to laugh, to smile, to be just how she is when you would meet her for a cup of coffee somewhere, it all got lost and she was a completely different person. So that can also be a problem. And this way, you can't really communicate the passion behind what you do because you're just not the real you. But the best tool really is your founder story, but only you can tell it. And you can tell it with the emotion and the authenticity that makes people lean in and think, yes, that person really gets me. She knows exactly what I went through. And then there's the third part, which is generic content creation. So maybe you've worked with an agency or a freelancer and they created pieces for you, but there are approximately 47 million articles online on productivity tips and how to start a business. Okay, I made that up. Um, what there isn't is your unique personal perspective shaped by your personal specific journey. And your difficulties, how you overcame them, your values, your relatable story, your background, where another woman leans in and thinks, wow, she gets me. She went exactly through the same thing. So anyone can pull out some stats and find some research and translate that into some social media posts, for sure. Especially AI seems to be doing that quite well. Where does that leave you? You certainly cannot stand out with perfection anymore. And then there's the other thing with AI posts, they all sound the same. And some of them, you just scroll right past them these days because you just pick up on the subtleties and it's just not the same thing, you know, like you realize when something just doesn't feel real. So where do you stand out? It's your failures, your breakthroughs, your humanness, your 2 a.m. moments of epiphanies. And wow, it's also you just being you, your humanness, your audience, when they listen to you tell your story, they actually listen to a person telling the story and not some regurgitated information that AI is creating from everything that's out there. So one is informing you, AI, and the other one is making you feel something. So he is your real winner. And that's something that I just had to create now because I have seen so many people struggle with content and trying to force themselves into a role that is just not compatible with them. So what if instead of sending generic briefs to a social media freelancer or an agency, you would create content just from interviews. And I realized how I was doing that through the podcast. I was talking to so many women and we're having these amazing conversations and they're sharing their knowledge, they're sharing their experiences and their very unique perspectives. And if on top of that, you add some interesting story frameworks, some unique questioning that is focused on communicating exactly that unique insights, your experience, your story, your emotions, how you overcome that, and position you as the expert through this conversation, through a feel-good conversation, essentially. Because it's fun talking to me. Because do you know another tricky problem talking into the camera by yourself? You feel awkward and you start to have a different voice and you feel stiff, you feel orchestrated. It takes a lot of training, a lot of working, and really, you don't want to be a content creator. You want to do your job. You want to serve your clients. And essentially, speaking to someone in an interview or in a conversation online is just completely different. And I can hold a space for you that you just don't have by yourself. And it's very natural because it's a conversation. So it's an absolute game changer, really. Real stories create real results, and your voice is front and center. And no AI can create that kind of connection. When you create content from interviews, essentially every piece sounds exactly like you because it literally came from you. Your personality shines through and can be felt through the screen. Your unique way of explaining things. Your stories get actually told in the way they're meant to be told. In the way that you tell your stories to a good friend. And a 60-minute conversation can give you enough material for multiple blog posts, social media content for weeks, even email newsletters, quote posts. There's so much that we can extract from a 60-minute conversation. And you're sharing what you already know in the way that's most natural to you. In an interview, your quotes turn into unique little gems that naturally come out in conversation when I speak to you. So you're not trying to force them into an article structure or wondering if they are blog worthy, having to spend hours and hours to make something work. So essentially, you are the expert and the guide in your own journey. Nobody can tell your story better than you. Nobody understands your methodology better than you. Nobody understands your approach better than you. Nobody talks about your work with more passion than you. Nobody has done more research on your topic than you. Nobody with the same kind of energy for your work. Nobody has faced the same struggles and breakthroughs. You can share everything, including that messy middle. So interview-based founder content is so powerful because you can share your real story and not just a highlight reel. So what are your content gold mines? Definitely your origin story. Why did you start your business? What problem did you want to solve and why? When did you know you had to do this? Then you can talk about your method. How do you work with clients? How do you solve their problem uniquely and in a very special way that only you do it? The transformation. Share your stories of people that you've helped and how and what results they achieved. That's a game changer. People respond to social proof a lot, especially when they are making a decision to purchase and they're already quite a way into the buying cycle. So they've decided they're going to purchase what you offer. They're just making a decision who they're going with, essentially. What changed for them? What has shifted? How do they live their life now? Share all of that about your clients and the people, companies that you help. Then you can share your lessons, the lessons you've learned along the way. What mistakes have you learned through your journey? What is your advice to others? What do you wish you would have known earlier? And what would you tell your past self? And specific industry knowledge. What trends are coming? What do you see for the future? What do you see changing right now versus where we're coming from? And what do others need to be aware of that work in your space, that learn from you? And what tools, tips can you essentially share? So the bottom line is only real stories create real connections. Your voice is unique and your perspective matters. And at the end of the day, people can find information everywhere these days. We are drowning in information. What they really need and want is connection, experience, and knowledge from someone who lived through it. Thank you so much for listening today. If you are ready to share your story and create some powerful content, please email me because I love doing these conversations. Until next time, stay tuned and thank you so much for listening. Bye.